Susser on one side and Jane Lee on the other.
I think you might need to sit here. And I was
Jane Lee's the MLB.com.
I think we're fine.
Yeah.
Hey, after the last game, Steph was pretty blunt, saying, you know, we played lazy with the lead. That was 20 points that vanished. And so I'm not trying to poke a wound, but how do the best teams move on from some mistakes, from some lapses, and get better from it?
This is the NBA. This is how you have to approach the season, no matter who you are, whether you're at the top of the standings, at the bottom, in the middle. There's just so many games that if you let one game carry into the next based on disappointment, you're in big trouble. So you just constantly turn the page. You learn from your mistakes, but you renew your energy and get back up and compete again.
Because 20 points is abnormal. That's abnormal for you guys. So is there sort of like an identity check? Like, remember, this is who
well,
we are,
I think if you asked every guy on this team and every coach, we would all agree that we haven't played to our potential yet. The other night was a good example of that. You know, we had a pretty good first half, and then second half we let our guard down and we stopped executing. And our defense suffered. We let Houston get going, and they obviously have been on a good run, and Harden was on a historic run, and they earned it. They came back, and it was a great game for them. We've got to do better. We know that. We've got to play better as a team. We're at the halfway point now of the season coming up, so we are going to continue to work, and we're going to get to the point where we're going to reach our potential, and but we haven't gotten there yet, for sure.
Steve, as you look at tape, because the guy's been saying something very similar. I think we just haven't played up to the peak that we were capable of. As you look through what's happened these first couple months, is this something that you see when you watch the games and you see them day to day? Why you haven't gotten to the point you want to yet at this point in the season?
I think there's various issues. It never comes down to one thing. But when we're at our best, our defense is really sharp. And our offensive execution complements our defense, and vice versa. The game's always connected. Every game that we struggle, it's not one thing. It's always something a little different. The other night, I think our offensive execution really suffered, and that led to poor transition defense. But a different night, you could point to something else. We just haven't gotten to the point where we know what to expect from our group night in and night out. We've just been a little bit of a roller coaster ride the whole first half of the season. Some of that has to do with injuries. Some of that has to do with the fact that we just haven't built the momentum that can come through consistent play and attention to detail. And that's what we have to get to, and I'm confident we'll get there.
Steve, last season you said that it may have been a lack of focus, having won 2 championships in 3 years. This one's even, that's almost harder. Is there a little bit of that creeping in maybe this year?
Yeah,
also?
I think when you say lack of focus, I think there's a difference between lack of focus and where you are as a team. Where we were 4 years ago compared to where we are now, we're in an entirely different place as an organization. So you have to adapt to your circumstances, and that means injuries, fatigue, whatever it is, you have to get off the mat and keep going. And there's a reason. We're trying to accomplish something that has only happened a few times in the history of the league. Trying to get to the finals for the 5th year in a row, trying to win our 3rd title in a row. It's not as simple as, oh, we got a great roster, we're going to do it. Like, you don't think these other teams have been planning for us for the last 3 years, and you don't think we get everybody's best shot night after night. So this is difficult, and we're feeling that. And the only way for us to get through all that is through our own work and execution and chemistry and just the ability to fight through everything and build some momentum, and that's the goal.
At some point you kind of become victims of your own success, where you have teams like the Kings and the Rockets and so many teams either being built to beat you or built to emulate.
There's no question that the league is dramatically different now compared to 2015. Teams have emulated us in a lot of ways. in terms of pace. 4 years ago we were #1 in the league in pace. Now we're in the middle of the pack, and we're actually playing faster than we did 4 years ago. So the whole league's playing faster. The whole league's playing smaller, shooting more threes. So the league has changed. They say imitation's the sincerest form of flattery. That's true. And we're seeing a lot of teams that are coming at us, just like we've been going at other teams for many years. So the league's gotten better. The quality of play out there, the number of teams in the Western Conference who are really good, including this one here tonight, totally different from 4 years ago. So these are all factors, and they're not excuses. They're just facts. And so our job is to rise above all that and to continue to play and continue to get better and get to the point where when we enter the playoffs, we feel like, all right, bring it on. Somebody's got to beat us 4 out of 7, and we want to be ready for that.
Do you see Steph's new kind of rotation pattern affecting his rhythm and all? He seems to, at least, especially the one in the fourth quarter where he has to come out from the little pocket in the fourth. Do you see that affecting him?
No. He's done a great job of handling it. It may not be ideal for him, but he understands it's the best thing for us right now. We have to put the best groups together. We've tried a lot of different things this year. The beginning of the second, the beginning of the fourth, we've tried KD in that spot, tried Clay. Now we're trying Steph. Right? This is the one that has looked the best, that has felt the best. It's ironic, but people are talking about Steph's fourth quarter minutes. Well, now he plays 10 minutes in the fourth quarter. He used to play 6 minutes in the fourth quarter. So it's not like the overall fourth quarter volume is waning. In fact, it's increased. He's playing more fourth quarter minutes. It's just different. And again, we're in the middle of the season. We're exploring a lot of different things. This may or may not be what we do the rest of the year, but for right now, given what we've watched, and it's all we do as a staff, we watch everything. We watch every combination. We look at numbers. We look at the quality of our play. We have different groups on the floor. This has been the most successful, and it looks the best. So we'll keep doing it, and we'll continue to explore as we go.
Steve, I believe today is the first day teams can sign 10-day contracts. What sense do you get from Bob of how much that might be an option for?
I haven't really talked to Bob about 10-day contracts. There's no question we're leaving that 15th spot open for an addition to help the group. What that means, whether it's a 10-day at some point, a buyout guy, trading for somebody, those options are all available to us. But as of right now, we're not in a rush to do anything.
Sacramento's played you guys pretty tough the first 2 games. As we head in the third game, and you reflect back on those first 2, what's jumped out to you about playing them?
Just the pace of play, the togetherness. They're really a fun team to watch. Dave's done a great job. Aaron Fox has taken a leap quickly in this league. He's becoming an elite point guard. Got shooting everywhere. I'm just happy for the fans here because it's been a long time. I mean, this team for many years, when you go back to the Vlade, C. Webb, Mike Bibby days, Doug Christie, it's one of the most entertaining teams in the league, played in this great environment in front of these great fans. And it's been a while for Sacramento, but I feel like there's a fire that's starting in terms of the passion and the quality of play, and it's great to see. It's a much harder game to win now than it used to be, but it's great for the city, and I'm happy for the franchise.
For your basketball questions, I'm curious what you're reading right now.
Let's see, what am I reading? I just got like 6 books for Christmas, and I just finished a book about Bill Belichick, which was really interesting. I also read a book called Between the World and Me by Tanisi Coates, which is fantastic. But I'm ready to move on to the next book because I've just finished a couple of them. So I got to figure out which one I'm going to read. But those were my main gifts for Christmas. Lots of books.
Do you gravitate towards nonfiction?
Not necessarily. I like fiction. Certain author, I love Pat Conroy. Huge Pat Conroy fan. I've read a lot of his stuff. It's I'm probably ready for a fiction book since I've been reading some nonfiction. But it's a good time of the year. You know, you get to halfway point, kind of the dog days of the NBA. It's a good time of year to get into a good book.
What do you take from a book on Belichick? Is there anything that you can glean from that?
Sure. You know, I probably couldn't be any more different from Belichick. Our personalities are entirely different, but a great coach is a great coach, and you study certain things, you read about certain things that they do. I read about a lot of coaches, and a lot of things click, and those things enter our meetings as a staff, ideas, possible tweaks to our practice schedule, to our preparation, just based on, you know, hey, this team does this.
What you're trying to do in terms of sustained excellence.
Yeah, I mean the Spurs and the Patriots are, as far as I know, the only two teams who have been doing this for 2 decades in professional sports. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't quite have. Maybe there's one I'm missing, but it's just so difficult to do what each franchise has done, which is to be highly competitive year after year for 2 decades, and that's what we'd like to do. It's a really hard thing to do, but you know, you do it through a foundation of great talent and work and character, and I think we have the potential to be a franchise like that. But there's also a lot of luck and a lot of work that goes into it, and but that's what we'd like to do.
What do you think? You don't need a book on Pop.
I don't need a book on Pop. Yeah, I lived that one.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, Ethan.
Hey, what do you think has to happen for this particular dynasty to sustain? Like, what things would have to happen to keep it going?
Well, I think it depends what your definition of dynasty is. You know, I'm not sure people refer to the Spurs as a dynasty. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But that's the goal: is to give yourself a swing at the plate year after year. If you look at the Spurs over the last 2 decades, they've had amazing success, but they've never won back-to-back titles. They've lost in the first round. They've been swept in the first round. You know, when that happened, was there talk at the time, this is it? The Spurs as we know them are done? Yes. I remember reading those articles, and I remember thinking, yeah, this is probably it. But it wasn't it. They got up off the mat and came back the next year and just kept their nose down and kept working. And so that's what you have to get to. You got to deal with all the noise, because where we are right now as a team, anything less than a championship, people are going to say the dynasty's over. I don't even know what a dynasty is. I don't know how you qualify it. We just want to be really good for a long time.
Yeah. Well, do you ever, and I'm not trying to make headlines, but just genuinely asking, do you ever wonder if this is going to end sooner rather than later, or do you just never think about that?
I don't think of it that way. I think in terms of let's be good for a long time, and that's Bob's goal, that's Joe's goal, and if you think in the NBA that means for 20 straight years we're going to have a team that's going to be a championship contender. I don't know. I don't think there's ever been, even the Spurs, they haven't been a championship contender every year, but they've been really good, and they've sort of had periods where they reassessed, they reloaded, kept going, and maybe even had a new iteration of their team. Pop's probably done that 3 or 4 times. That's the goal. But what everybody's going to talk about is how, you know, this version of the Warriors, how long will that last? And that's got a finite term limit. It just does. So, like you said, you're not looking to create any headlines, which is bullshit, Ethan. You know you're looking to create a headline.
I meant for them, but for me, for me.
No, but from our standpoint, we have to live with the headlines, and the headlines are going to be written. And the minute we take a dive, lose a few games, the stories they're already being written, right? Like, is this the end of the Warriors dynasty? We can't worry about any of that. We've got to worry about being really good the rest of this year, and then making the right moves next summer to be really good the next year, and sustaining this thing for as long as we can. But I'm pretty sure we're not going to win 17 of the next 20 championships.
That's going to be a disappointment to some people.
It'll be very disappointing. I'm going to go out on a limb, though, and say that.
Have you watched the Last Dance Bulls documentary that you're in that's coming out in 2062 or whenever it's coming out? Have you seen any cuts of that? Have any thoughts?
I haven't watched any of it. I was interviewed for it a couple months ago in New York, and I was there when they were filming it 20 years ago. So I know a lot about it. So I'm happy to answer any questions about it.
Did you know that was the end in that season when that was happening? Not that anyone's drawing any of your
No, we did. That's Phil called it the Last Dance for a reason. Everybody was a free agent. The team had made no bones about the fact that this was it. The team was splitting up. They weren't going to re-sign guys, and hence the term the Last Dance.
How many books would you say you've read on Belichick or coaches in general?
On Belichick, I read the one about his father. So David Halberstam, did he write a book about Belichick and his dad, Steve Belichick, who coached at Naval Academy? So I read that one. It was fantastic. It was probably the only two Belichick books I've read. I've read a lot. John Wooden. Read all of Phil's books. If Pop ever wrote a book, I'd read that one. He's not going to write a book. But I think it's really interesting to look at other sports as a coach, see what other coaches, managers are doing. I watch Premier League soccer. I enjoy watching the post-game press conferences of the managers, which is, by the way, a way better term than coach. The managers. You're managing. That's what we're doing. We're managing, and I may start referring to myself as a manager.
Head manager?
Just manager. Okay. Manager of the
Good stuff.
All right, guys.